Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
I'm Carmen.
And I'm Tyler Janae.
This is the Friendly Black Girls podcast, and we are the Friendly Black Girls. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Carmen.
How you doing?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I heard you got a birthday coming up.
I do have, listen, anybody who knows me, all of my friends know my birthdays are very serious business.
They are. They look amazing.
Very serious occasion. You do not want to miss it. And I was so excited when I invited one of my friends. She said, you know, I would never miss a Carmen birthday experience. Aww. And that made me feel really good because I take pride in hosting, and I want people to like feel something when they come to my event. So yeah, so this go round, take a guess at what I'm going to be doing.
Something absolutely fabulous and amazing. What is it?
You would be correct. I am going to be hosting a Cowboy Carmen.
Oh, like Cowboy Carter.
That's right.
Cowboy Carmen.
Period.
Okay.
And so everybody's going to get dressed up in their cute little cowgirl gear. We're going to bull ride. We're going to line dance. I'm really excited.
This ain't Texas.
Ain't no hold 'em. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be fun. So my birthday is actually on 4/20.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Earth Day. And some people would call it Weed Day. But, you know, I don't partake, so hey. So it'll be shots all around for the girls. But I'm really excited. What you got going on?
You know, just trying to catch up on life, and you know, I'm definitely working on kind of updating my personal style.
Come on now.
Trying to get away from Shein and the Fashion Nova holds. So if you got any places in mind, you know, let me know.
I don't, girl, because I'm right there with you.
Dang.
I have me a Fashion Nova cart right now, ready to go. Okay, because I'm headed to Mexico in May.
Oh,
so yeah, that's definitely the vibes. Listen, when's the last time you've had a girls' night? Girls' night in.
It's been a minute. You know, it's really hard getting some time on people's calendars.
Oh my God. Can I vent real quick?
Yeah, let's go.
I am so tired of trying to get on people's calendars. I mean, I know that we're adults now, and I know we're supposed to respect that, and all these IG videos out there about people telling you, hey, you got to respect your friend's time, and you know, we might have to schedule, and I'm cool. I'm not cool with that.
No.
Listen, our schedules are not aligning.
And kids and work.
But when can I get on your calendar? I can't do a 90 days from now. Like, sometimes it's an immediate need. Like, we need to talk now.
So you're like a spontaneous type of friend.
We need to have happy hour today because I got some stuff I need to get off my chest.
That's really hard for me because I need time to get my life together. I know in 48 hours I'm going to be going out to brunch. I need to figure out what I'm going to wear, what my hair is going to look like. Got to get my press-ons together.
Yes.
You know, but I love that. I mean, sometimes you got to share the shared calendar.
Can I say how impressed I am with your press-on nails? Like, I sat here and watched you do it in like 7 minutes flat.
Yes.
That is so impressive. And you did like the tape method, you said?
Yeah, so I'm definitely more of a fan of the tape method than the glue, because the glue gets absolutely all over the place. So, yeah, and they were $2.
Not $2.
99-cent store. Go ahead and get you some.
I love it, Tyler. You never cease to amaze me. So the reason I asked you about girls' night is I was looking at this article recently, and typically at girls' nights, we are just kind of like shooting the breeze, watching Netflix, drinking wine, but we never really are like getting deep with our friends on a level that's like, let me get to know you a little better, right? Typically, we're just venting and just having a good time. So I came across these questions that I thought were really good. The first one was, what could I be doing better in this friendship? Would you ask like, if you were sitting at girls' night with your friend, would you ask them that? I feel like that's such a deep question.
That is a deep question. I feel like I would be a little nervous, right? Because I try to avoid conflict, and this might be the perfect opportunity for them to tell me something that they don't like that I did, and mess up the whole girls' night. Now I'm mad. Now you mad. Now we looking at each other sideways. But it's important. You got to have these conversations. It's got to get more than surface level.
I know with romantic friendships, people are recommending now that you have like a meeting with your romantic partner every week. So I know couples that have weekly meetings where they sit down and they ask these questions. They plan their calendars. They do budget and stuff like that. So I feel like this is kind of like the equivalent of that.
Okay.
The next question was, if I lost all my memory, what would you tell me about us?
Oh, that's beautiful, though.
I feel like that's super cute. So what would you tell your best friend? Like, if she lost her memory, what would you say to her? Like, how would you describe your friendship?
I would probably tell her that I am just so amazed just by who she is and how she carries herself and how she exudes her confidence, because that's something I definitely learned from her. And you learn so much from your friends.
Yes.
And that's like the biggest thing for me.
love
What about
that.
you? What would you say?
Oh, what do I remember about us, or what should we remember about us? I would say just how badass we were. Like, we just have this vibe about us that is just like kicking down doors, getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Like I want her to remember that she's that girl if she ever loses her memory, okay? The next question was, what do you think you learned from me? And what do you think I learned from you? And you kind of just said...
Back to the confidence.
Yeah, I like that. The last two are, what do you see in me that I don't see in myself?
Oh,
how special is that?
that's super special. That reminds me of like words of affirmation. You know?
So I've definitely, because I'm a words of affirmation girl, I love it. So I would definitely be sitting there eating it up like, yeah, thank you. Give me some more. Yes. And the last one is, what was your first impression of me, and has it changed over time? I know for me, when I first met a couple of my friends, we really didn't get along that well.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you might want to be careful with that one.
So definitely, I know one of my friends from high school thought I talked too much, which was so fun because I talk all the time. I'm a talker. So I thought that was funny.
Host.
Yeah, clearly. But so, yeah, I think that would be a good question to ask. So what do you think about those questions? So would you ever do that? And audience, you can tell us too. Would you guys ever sit down and ask those in-depth questions to your friends? I feel like that could get intense for a girls' night, but...
And be prepared for the answer.
Okay.
Just be prepared, right? If you bring these questions up, don't think it's all going to be hee-hee. The night's going to be great. Like, y'all going to get into some serious, real conversations that are needed, though.
That's right. Absolutely. But it's worth it.
But do you think a girls' night is the right time and place to do
When
it?
the hell you going to have it?
That's a good one.
Tyler?
Yeah. Over drinks, mimosas. Well, that might get crazy.
People going to be crying and shouting.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, my. Blocking people on Instagram. Okay. Anyway. When it comes to your man, okay, so we're going on a whole nother direction, okay? But we're talking about your man's friends. So I came across a post that said that this lady would not date a man who doesn't have women friends.
She would not?
She would not. And I'm going to play you the clip so you can get some insight.
Okay.
I always get sort of confused when I hear women say that they would not or do not date men who have girl best friends, because to me that shows like a man who can see the humanity in women. Knowing that you have women in your life that you have close platonic bonds with is absolutely a green flag for me, because that lets me know that you see women as people who should be respected, people who you can have friendship with.
Tyler, you're shaking your head before the clip is even done, sis. What is the problem?
No, I don't feel like that's a requirement. You know, in my relationship, like, oh, let me check. Do you got friends? You got, friends that are girls? Okay, good. You good? No, like you could do that with your family. You could do that, with your guy friends. It doesn't have to be, a girl best friend. And I don't really know how I feel about. I don't really know how I feel about that. Like, oh, this is just my homegirl. Next thing you know, they dated back in the day, and she's trying to sneak in or something. I'm still working on that. But I don't think that's a necessity. What do you think?
I had an ex who he mostly had women friends.
Oh, my.
He mostly had, and I actually was shocked and appalled when I met every single one of them, but they were clearly, they didn't seem interested in him.
Okay.
They seemed like genuine friends.
That's good.
So I think, to be honest, I really do think it made him a better boyfriend. I feel like he really had tapped into the female, emotional, all the stuff that we go through. I feel like he really had a good handle on it because of that. But do I feel like it's a requirement? No, ma'am. No, ma'am, Pam. I think I could do without it.
Yeah. No, thanks.
So if you start getting fat, Tyler, I just went into the next subject. If you start getting fat, would you want your friend to tell you?
That's a hard one because, we're all working, sometimes on our weight. And as we get older, you get a little bit of a pouch or a fupa, as they would like to say.
Yeah, I got one now.
But if I don't ask you, then I
You don't need that.
I don't need that, right? Because I most of the time, no. Now, if I tell you, like, girl, I feel like I've been picking up some weight, like, do you think? And then you tell me the truth, then okay, that's you being my friend. But you're not just going to come to me like, girl, you looking a little chunky.
Ma'am. So I came across a post. Somebody I know actually posted this, and it was so funny. I took a screenshot of it, and we'll put it up for you guys to see. But it said, I guess I don't have any real friends. It's a picture of her on the scale. Y'all were really smiling in my face this summer instead of telling me I was a little chunkier than normal. And I feel like, is that a requirement? So you tell us, girlfriends at home, do you feel like your friend should tell you when you are gaining weight? Does that make them a bad friend if they don't point it out?
What do you think? Like, if you were out, it was summertime, and you just had the legs and the midriff out and everything. And
I just feel like that's a tough topic. I just feel like that's just something you shouldn't address. I mean, it can get weird. I mean,
like, if they're like, let me pull this down for you. Like, you got a little...
I don't know if it's your place as a friend.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
so
not.
I would say skip it. If you're my friend, skip it. All right, Tyler. We're about to get into some real serious business. Have you heard of the mother wound?
I have heard of the mother wound, but not into too much depth.
Okay. So, everybody's been talking about the mother wound, and I decided I wanted to look further into it. What is the mother wound? What is it about? And when I started looking deeper, I started to realize that there's a connection between mother wound and your friendships. So I thought that was really interesting. So today we're going to be talking to a couple of people. We have some really, really amazing guests.
So we wanted to make sure that we brought someone on the podcast who could really talk about this mother wound and what it really means.
Exactly.
So we have a very special guest in the building with us. Her name is Yovanna Madhere, and she is a clinical social worker and personal development and evolution coach. So how are you? Welcome to the Friendly
Come on, title.
Podcast.
That was a hell of a title, wasn't it? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's get into the actual definition of the mother wound. What is it?
So the mother wound is experienced when people feel that their needs were unmet in childhood. So that could look like their emotional needs, their physical needs. They felt unsafe. Some people consider that to be a type of emotional trauma that they experienced. But overall, it's just kind of a breakdown of what they received from their mom. And then it shows up in friendships. It shows up in relationships. It shows up in different parts of our lives.
And when did you start hearing about the phrase mother wound? Is
I
that
feel
new?
like in the recent year or so. Okay. Like, I just heard a lot of people talking about it, and I got curious about it, and I said, hey, let's have a conversation, because it feels like a lot of people are experiencing the quote-unquote mother wound. So when we talk about how it might show up in our relationships or our friendships specifically, we kind of want to talk about that today. What does that look like?
So it shows up differently for different people. For some people, it shows up as the inability to connect with other women. For some other people, it shows up as a difficulty having romantic relationships and reaching a level of intimacy with their partner. For some people, it looks like not wanting to be mothers themselves because of the wounds that they endured from their own mother. Issues with coworkers. The dynamic is really complicated because the relationship with the mother is really the first intimate relationship that we have, right?
Yeah.
And so if you consider that relationship to be wounded for fill in the blank reason, that can show up in different ways for different people in various relationships. And sometimes it shows up across the board.
Yeah.
It even can show up as in your relationship with money, in your relationship with your body image, right? It's very, very deep. It's very, very complicated.
So that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
That is a lot of things. So some of the things that I've seen online, and you can confirm or deny whether, because you got to be careful with online information. People pleasing, poor boundaries, fearing failure, and being competitive with other women. So I want to really hone in on the being competitive with other women piece. Yeah. So I guess, can we dive more into that topic? What does that look like when somebody's showing up and trying to be super competitive with other women? How does that show up?
So I'm going to say something controversial, but true. Mothers compete with their daughters sometimes.
Huh?
So.
She's shaking the table.
Yes.
Already.
And it has to be said that we, especially in our communities, we tend to pedestalize our mothers and, be like, oh, the mother can do no wrong. But because of the responsibility that she has, right? I'm a mother, I have 5 children, so the responsibility is pretty heavy. And because we tend to pedestalize the mother, the wound is that much deeper. So when we have the experience of feeling like our mothers are competing with us, or we didn't receive enough from our mothers, we weren't seen by our mothers, and we, now trying to become these like over excellent people, these overachieving, right?
Yep. Okay.
Yep. And that competition really stems from the need to be seen by our mothers and not receiving what we wanted to receive from her. And so sometimes we feel as though, well, I'm showing up as my best self and you're invalidating me. And so therefore, my wound pops up. And that's where that competition rears its ugly head. Like, I showed up for you and you didn't show up for me. Or, you have something that I want and I'm jealous of you because that was some of the output that was demonstrated to you. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I mean,
that's how that shows
I've heard
up
a lot
times.
about mothers and daughters being in competition and mothers even sometimes being jealous of their daughters. I've never experienced that, but I've heard a lot about that. So yeah, that's interesting.
Very.
You have any question you want to ask?
Yeah, I would love to pass it to our other guest. Okay.
All right, welcome Tasha to the Friendly Black Girls podcast. As you know, today we are talking about a very, very interesting topic, the mother wound. And so we're glad to have you as a guest, and we're excited to hear you tell your story. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your experience has been with the mother wound.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. And my name is Tasha. I'm from Philadelphia, and I have a security company that I've had for 10.5 years now. I also have a podcast where I talk about security of the mind, body, and soul. So with that, I try to spin it a bit as far as my experience with safety and security from physically doing that to bringing it closer to what I had to go through mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And I guess speaking to today's subject, I would say it's a lot of God and therapy that allowed me to understand this. So with that being said, I grew up in a single parent home and absolutely adored my mother. I grew up around women. I appreciated women, but I found myself growing up having issues connecting with women. I got into a field that is hyper masculine to the point where people didn't even recognize me as a woman. So that's when I said, "Oh, I'm going to need to wake up. I need to figure out who I am, how I'm presenting myself to the world, and how I can be a woman, be feminine, and provide, safety and security and be that figure as well." So a lot of, what I was raised by, a lot of proving myself and going above and beyond. I think those are some of the things that came from motherhood.
That's really interesting to hear you say the hyper masculinity. So would you say, or do you think that you were deterred from, I guess, femininity based on your mother wound? Is that what you felt like happened? Like you were kind of running away from other women and running away from womanhood in a sense?
In a sense, especially because I was so career oriented and I felt like presenting myself in that way in a male space, it just made sense. And it's not something I think I purposely did. It was something that just made sense. It allowed me to operate in a space where no one bothered me. I didn't have to worry about, men hitting on me and, getting through those hurdles. And also, for some reason, being strong and excelling and being in ownership and being a boss is often equated with masculinity. So it was very much easy to just be stern, strict, no smiles, no nothing. I didn't smile outside of work. I mean, at work at all. And yeah, it was just one of those things where I think it was just a natural, it just made sense. I don't think I ran away from femininity. It's just for what I was focused on at the moment, it made sense.
Understood.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
How do you feel like this mother wound affected your relationships with your friends?
Okay. I don't think I really had meaningful, genuine friendships with women until closer to my 30s. So it took a while. It took a while. And it was, I felt like I was in friendships more out of like convenience. Hey, we're from the same neighborhood. We went to the same college. We're part of, I see you in the same social circle. So yeah, let's get together. Let's be friends. It was very much superficial. I didn't allow myself to get too close because I was scared. I was scared as far as what the expectations might have been from women. So what actually led me to the point of being able to get closer and uh, find safety and stability in that was through our church. My church said, "We want you to lead." Like we call them small groups, but it's catered to women. And I said, "What?" I said, "Do you know me? Have you met me? I work around men all the time. I'm leading in spaces where there's men often. Not once have you heard me talk about, a sister or auntie or mama, nothing, right? So what does this mean?" And I took a leap of faith and welcomed women into my home. And now I have aunties that stem from that and lifelong friends. And because I finally said, well, if they're trusting me with it, if God is leading me, here I am.
Look at God. Won't he do it? Listen. We won't, he will. So tell us a little bit more about your experience, if you don't mind, as far as you would like to go and as transparent as you would like to be about your experience as a child. Kind of what happened in your childhood where you are now classifying your experience as a mother wound.
Okay. So my mom and I were very close, and then it got to a point where I guess I got a little bit older, and we didn't have the same type of personality at all, at all. And I was wondering, why that was such an issue. Of course, I didn't find out until later on, kind of the things that were going on with her. So I will say, um, it later on, I would say close to my 20s, there was emotional and mental challenges that she had overcome. We didn't know any of that until I was a child, when I was a child. So it was a lot of me doing, getting scholarships to school, excelling in as a musician, being the president of this club and that club, and being in this sport. Literally, I had no time to sit down. It was do your homework, go to sleep, get back up, do what you got to do, and it just seemed like it was never enough. And it was a pleasing. And I said, well, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and everybody else seems happy and satisfied, but what's going on with us? And it was just the two of us in the home, so it was a lot of tension for I felt like for no reason. If I were to express it, I would be told, "Oh, you're a teenager, you don't know what's best. You're growing up, you'll learn." And I mean, of course, I've learned now. But there, someone that I admired, I looked up to her. She absolutely took care of me, but it often felt like it was at a price. So,
Yeah. And you've talked a lot about your evolution. So we're very proud of your evolution. We just want to give you your kudos, girl. You are doing amazing. And so, Yovanna, talk to us because you're an evolution coach, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you have to say about kind of her experience, what you've heard so far, and how far she's come? Is this typical? Is her experience something that you've heard before? Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Kudos on your evolution for being able to put yourself first and see yourself and being willing to become the version of yourself that you wanted to be, like deep down inside. So kudos to you for that. You know, when we talk about the mother wound, we have to also be at the same time, we can, two things can be true at the same time. Okay. So we can acknowledge that we are wounded, emotionally wounded by the relationship or the dynamic between our mothers, and also hold space and have compassion for their stories. Okay. So yes, when you're teenagers, especially when girls and their moms are teenagers, because again, sometimes having to do with that jealousy factor, sometimes there's just this competitiveness, because if we're honest, once we kind of get our little bodies in, we're like, okay, well, you're not
smelling ourselves.
Correct. You're not the only grown woman around here, and our mothers have to remind us. So that is a very, very common dynamic that happens. Additionally, though, besides in teenage years, when we start to experience that emotional breakdown with our mothers, especially in childhood, that can manifest itself as childhood trauma. I've done a considerable amount of research on what are called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And the more ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, that a person has, manifests itself as different kind of emotional or sometimes even physical manifestations in adulthood, right? So it shows up like difficulties in friendship, but sometimes it can also show up as, metabolic disease and like diabetes even sometimes. And the mother wound is one of those silent ACEs. So when we think about childhood trauma, people automatically go to like, child abuse or whatever, but feeling unseen or neglected or unloved by your mother is one of those silent things that can be very, very damaging to us. And sometimes it takes us being in our 30s, sometimes in our 40s, to overcome, to even like get to the source of being like, oh my God, I think I know where this is coming from. And it takes therapy, coaching, God, relationships, and the willingness to say, and to be honest, willingness to be like, I think that my mom might be a source of my issues.
Oh my
goodness. That's big.
I mean, because your mom is your first friend. Your mom is your very first friend, right? So, Tasha, what was your aha moment when you realized, hey, maybe some of this stuff I'm experiencing is based on my relationship with my mother?
I started to notice it as I got older, and I still had the same reaction to some of the things that she would say or things that she did not acknowledge. And I said, wait, how old am I now? And why do I want to go in a room and cry? I've done all these things in life. I've, been in so many different spaces. And why with this particular relationship, it's just so deep.
So that was your moment. Tyler, what about you? Have you experienced anything like this or know anybody who has?
I had a friend who I had to have a conversation with because I felt like it was a lot of competition within the friendship. And I'm like, like I would call her and be like, oh, I got a promotion, or that, something cool happened. And she was like, well, I, did this. Well, I got 2 promotions, like they would always be trying to like one up you. And so we kind of had to sit down and have like that real conversation. And that's when she started opening up about her childhood and how she had kind of learned how her parents were dealing with their friends. So like on the phone, she might be listening to her mom's conversation and they're kind of like talking, and then she get off the phone and then she can hear her mom like talking, gossiping about the friend she just got off the phone with. So maybe that's kind of how she, started understanding
to relate to
how friendships work, which is, the wrong way, but if that's all she's seen, so us having the conversation and really talking about it and her going to therapy really did help. But for like, I would ask you, what are some other signs for people to look out for in friendships that make them understand like maybe this could be a mother wound issue other than being competitive?
Yeah. So always start with yourself. Like check yourself first and say, well, how am I showing up in the friendship, right? Like we always have to do our personal inventories and see how it is that we are coming into the thing, because maybe we have our own wound that we haven't addressed, right? But also when you get to know the friend and you are actually listening, because these things are not always in a vacuum. These mother wounds, they run through families. It's like the women in the family. It's not
so it's a trend.
Yeah, it's a trend sometimes. And so if you see the dynamic that she has, like I guess your friend, like you saying that how her mom would relate to her friends, but like see how your friend relates to her other friends. And even like her siblings, if she's got sisters or she's got aunts and stuff like that, that is how you can kind of see how that shows up. And it's difficult. I mean, I certainly have had quite a few challenges with friends. One friend in particular that her mother wound was very, very evident. And it showed up like jealousy, and it showed up like, but my mother wound at the time was with the people pleasing. So we had this weird dynamic where I was swallowing a lot of stuff and didn't realize it was happening to me. And she was lobbing a lot of stuff. And it was through my healing process when I realized what was happening. I was like, skirt.
Hold up.
Well, hold up, wait a minute. And had to put up some firm boundaries around myself, right? In the situation. So when we can acknowledge what is happening with us, then we can therefore acknowledge what's happening in the friendship, because sometimes it's not the friend, sometimes it's you.
Yeah, hold up now.
Sometimes it's us.
I want to talk about that people pleasing moment again, because I heard you say that, you know, when you were growing up, you were like the president of this and you had all the good grades, and which is really trying to people please for your family and for your parents. And so just overall, what would you say is your definition of people pleasing? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
People pleasing, the way that I define it, I think the way that most people define it, looks like putting yourself away for the benefit of others. That's one aspect of it. That's like 1A. And people pleasing 1B is doing the most for others.
Got it.
In an effort to be liked, an effort to be seen, an effort for, to be validated in the eyes of others. So, and there's often intersections. But basically, when you either don't want to be the bad guy, right, and don't want to make any waves.
Don't want to say no.
Don't want to say, oh, that's a big one. Don't want to say no. Don't want to stand up for yourself. Don't want to say what's really on your mind. That's what people pleasing looks like.
My goodness. And so we were talking earlier off camera. I want to go back to the trend because I have a question for you, Tasha. But we were talking earlier off camera about the changes that happen in your brain when it comes to trauma and just childhood experiences. And do you want to talk quickly about that? Just like what happens inside of your body when you experience these things?
Yeah. You know that gut feeling? Right? And we as women, you were talking about that feminine essence, right? Women have that gut thing. That's what we're kind of known for, right? And so in our bodies, when something happens to us, something unfavorable, our bodies instantly tell us, like on the surface level, right? Yes. We choose to ignore it 99% of the time, if we're honest.
Running past those red flags.
100%, right? But what happens when you experience childhood trauma in the form of the mother wound for the purposes of this conversation is there's certain genetic markers that actually get turned on in the body, which, as I was saying earlier, when we talk about ACEs, how those things can end up looking like mental health issues, depression, anxiety. Sometimes it looks like cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes. And so oftentimes when we're dealing with adults, the question is like, not like what's up with that person, but it's like what happened to that person. And when you have an understanding, or when the person gets an understanding of what happened to them, through the healing process, they're actually able to turn some of those genetic markers off.
Okay.
Right. I'm trying not to nerd out too much.
We love it.
Yeah, but when this is why it's so important that we are mindful of how we speak to our children, and then how we speak to our inner child. We all have that inner little girl.
Yes,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I we got to talk more off camera so I can get some more information. But I want to talk about the trend, and I want to go back to Tasha because in my childhood, my mother, what I saw was her relating very well to other women. She was a girl's girl. Like, she had lots of friends. I never heard her talking bad about her friends. My aunt the same way. My grandma the same way. So when you talked about the trend, it sparked something in my head. I'm like, wow, the trend on my side, in my family, is that the women are girls.
That's awesome.
They love women. They love other women. And so I want to ask you, was that your experience? So you had the experience with your mom, but with your aunts and your grandmas, what was that like? Did you see a trend there?
Well, my mom, she didn't have a lot of friends. She didn't. So, but if I had to look towards, a role model would be my great grandmother, who I always said was my best friend. And she was someone who made sure that she was involved in the community and made sure that she had her friends up until the age of 93 when she passed the day, she would talk to on the phone.
Beautiful.
And she's the one who showed me that it is possible, in establishing relationships, but it's got to be under the right terms. right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had a little mixed dynamic between my grandma and my mom. My mom was strictly, she had one friend, and that one friend, when I remember prom day, she took me to get my makeup done, and she said, "Hey, you know your mom likes you, right?"
Oh, really? She had a conversation with you.
My mom's one friend said that to me, and I said, I was a sigh of relief. I think she knew the tension that was going on, but if I had to think of the dynamic for my mom, that was a significant moment.
Okay. So what I want to ask you, what are your goals moving forward? Do you have any goals just in terms of like relationship building or friendships, or what are you hoping to do in the coming years when it comes to kind of your evolution and healing and becoming closer with other women? Do you have any goals or anything that you would really love to do?
I think a lot of my experience has been so much in protecting others, and that oftentimes put a guard up for myself. So, a goal of mine is to be even more of myself so that the right people are drawn to me, and I'm drawn to.
Mm.
So, that has, say, happened within the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years now, where I intentionally said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And I'm actually getting married this month. So,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. So I'm
We
all
actually
about
have an episode on marriages and friendships coming up, but I would love to ask you, do you have any bridesmaids in your wedding?
I've got two. And
Okay.
yep.
That's enough.
And they're a good one.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
We love it. We love it.
It's become a beautiful friendship. Our friendships have grown even more because of it.
Awesome. We love to see it. We love to see it. So I think at this point, we can just kind of, if we could give our audience members maybe a few tips on how to navigate the mother wound in their friendships so that they're not showing up in a way that's kind of presenting challenges in their friendships. What are some tips that they can kind of take away?
Like I said earlier, check yourself first and check your body when you meet people. Take your time easing into friendships and relationships, but be open to those relationships. I think it's really important that women do have those relationships with other women. There is a concept called reparenting. So if you know that you have a mother wound, it is certainly worth the investment, speaking with a counselor, a therapist, a coach, and go through the process of reparenting and become the mother to yourself that you maybe would have liked to have had in real life. And a lot of forgiveness of yourself and a lot of forgiveness of others. Because, like you were saying earlier, people are just trying to do their best, right?
Yeah.
And so that willingness that you were talking about is really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last words, Tyler?
This was such an amazing conversation. I want to thank you. Tasha.
Yeah.
I feel like people are definitely going to walk away just understanding more about this mother wound and how they can get the support they need to move forward.
Where can we find you online?
So I'm on Instagram at Yovanna Rocks, YOVANNAROCKS, which is the same as my website, YovannaRocks.com.
That's amazing. Tasha, anything that you want to share with us? Any projects you're working on? Anything that people should know?
Well, you can find me at Plaza Perspective. So Plaza spelled like shopping mall, hotel, all those things, right? So Plaza's Perspective on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. Also on there, you'll see the link to the Plaza Perspective podcast and Prime Legacy Security, where I'm giving you safety security from all around.
We love it. We love it. Well, Tasha, we are wishing you the absolute best on your journey. We thank you so much for sharing with us and being so transparent. We think this is really going to help some of our girlfriends that tune in every week. So we definitely appreciate it. And until next time, remember, being a good girlfriend is a blessing, and to have a good girlfriend is an even bigger blessing. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.